Do you think that the Sonic Truth needs like some sort of synchronized dancing? Like, I like your dance that you do, Podfather, but for 2024, Theo, do you think that would be too shticky, or like a dance might work?
Like choreographed?
No, just like freelance dance. Freelance, just like, because I have a feeling that you have complete white man dance moves.
No, my dance moves are good, Alan. You got to remember, I'm originally from DC and I'm a hip hop guy, so I got a couple of moves, and I can also dab. My son, he's like 6.5, and him and his buddies dab all the time, so I'm forced to dab, forced to gritty. I could break it down.
Yeah,
he can break it down.
I can break it down.
Yep. Podfather, because you did hands above the head. I always say, like, hands above the head is how you get away with dancing, like at a bar mitzvah or a wedding or something like that. Once you go hands below, you kind of look goofy. Not you, the proverbial you looks goofy doing it.
Yeah, the proverbial. Yeah, I think we should do synchronized. I think the NFL is going to synchronize celebrations. I think that we could learn some dance moves. There's a group of women, of moms in my town of Fairfield, Connecticut, that have created their own dance troupe. They're called the Mombies, where they will do a flash mob, and they surprise some kid getting off a bus. He had surgery or something, and he loved Halloween. So a bunch of them dressed up in real serious Halloween costumes, and then they hired, because they have money, because we're in Connecticut. They hired a New York choreographer to teach thriller dance moves, and then so they were like walking on the street or whatever. This kid gets off the bus, and then all of a sudden they did a flash mob dance scenario and surprised this kid, and then it went viral on Facebook because all these women are on Facebook. And next thing you know, it's on Facebook, and they're a thing, and then they're raising money for causes, and then they have a whole schedule, and then you have to check the website to see when they're going to be playing and showing up in different places. So it's a whole thing, and there's a waiting list, and moms want to get in, they can't get in, and it becomes political.
Yeah, when you said Mombies, I thought that was a Pornhub category.
Like zombie porn, Alan?
No, Mombies,
like MILF and zombie combined?
Listen, guys,
I'm
from this community. I enjoy the Mombies. Can we not do this?
All right, let's make some
predictions.
Can
we not?
All right. Well, first Sonic Truth show of 2024. We're kicking off a new Dynasty season. For us, this is when the season begins, not ends, right? We just finished the regular season, and we'll reflect back as we go. But I think let's start off the Sonic Truth season with some predictions. Our own Theo Gremminger here made a list of, I think, 20-plus predictions on his X profile. But I'm going to pick out some of the best ones I thought that I think are worthy of discussion. And not that hey, these are our bold takes for 2024. They're just launching off points to a discussion. I think the best place to start, guys, was PlayerProfiler was very high on Rachaad White this time last year, calling him a top 12 running back. I understand why you got a lot of pushback, but you know what, Matt Kelly? You weren't high enough.
I don't even understand the pushback. Okay, when you say the words, and I heard you said words. Okay, they came out of your mouth. They tumbled forth from your lips, Alan. Those lips. Those dirty, dirty lips. So, you said the words, understandable criticism. Right? The criticism was understandable. And you have to understand my perspective, which is at no point was that criticism understandable. I came on and said, I don't understand the criticism. I'm flummoxed. I'm perplexed. I don't get it, man. What am I missing? And no one had a good answer other than he had a partial season without an offensive line with a low yards per carry. And I'm like, that's not a real reason. Do you have anything other than this small sample, single stat criticism? No, nothing. Acknowledge that he's a fantastic receiver out of the backfield with size? Yes. And speed? Yes. Typically, that's exactly what you want in an NFL running back, right? Yes. Oh, no, but this one stat in a small sample. So that isn't understandable to me. That's just dumb. People coming in saying, this guy's bad at football. That's just dumb and wrong. So all I heard was dumb and wrong analysis about Rachaad White, with the exception of a handful of analysts, us, and R.C. Fisher coming on and saying he's going to outproduce Bijan Robinson, which he did. And so no, I don't agree with that. I don't accept that it was legitimate criticism. It wasn't. Those people are morons. If you believe that a third-round running back is going to get dropped into the league and the complete full role will be handed to him, no matter what the offense looks like, Baker Mayfield, blah, 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 whatever, it doesn't matter. Does he have size? Does he have speed? Does he have great hands and route running ability? He has all these things. To fade that guy is dumb.
Yeah. I mean, people were trying to poke holes in him. People were trying to say that he's going to get replaced during the NFL draft. Then he's going to get replaced during NFL free agency.
They didn't draft anybody!
Yeah.
They didn't draft anybody! They didn't sign anybody!
Sean Tucker was a seventh.
He wasn't even drafted!
Well, they signed somebody.
The Sean Tucker
a
argument.
Free agent rookie?
Theo, was he a 7th-round pick or an undrafted free agent?
No, he was undrafted, and he got maybe he got north of $100,000 to go there. And that was the argument, was Sean Tucker, the injured running back who was undrafted, is going to replace Rachaad White. And Matt, they poked holes in everything. Like him catching 50 passes as a rookie, which is usually like a great indicator of future fantasy success. That's only because of Tom Brady. And then the yards per carry, Matt, it's funny. The yards per carry didn't go up. But Tampa Bay gave him 253 carries this year. They gave him 253 carries. And then he gets multiple rushing touchdowns. And he was also one of the more consistent running back scorers at the position this year. He had double-digit points, I think, for like 8 straight weeks. He was north of 13 points per game. Theo, he was a hit.
I think that when I say, and Matt pushed back on me for saying there was understandable criticism, let me clarify. What I meant was it was predictable that that there would be pushback.
I don't even agree with that. It wasn't predictable. Well, I could have never predicted it. If I told you, that we were going to rank Rachaad White inside our top 10 dynasty running backs, and I would not have expected you to push back on that at all. It's one of those things that you never know, right? An artist might drop an album, and a lot of times they don't know which songs are going to be the hits. Sometimes it comes completely out of nowhere. You just have no idea what the public is going to think. And in this case, the Rachaad White, perfect example, where if I sat down with Theo and we went through the rankings, and I was like, which of these rankings would you think the public would consider a hot take or an outlier or well outside consensus? My first inclination would not have been Rachaad White. It was so obvious to me and such a safe bet, given that he had no touch competition. Typically, the understandable criticism is, well, the NFL is signaling by bringing in player X or drafting player Y that they're not fully sold on the guy you like. They didn't even do that. So you couldn't even, typically is the default of, we'll default to the wisdom of the coach. We'll default to the wisdom of the NFL team because they know more than we do, which they don't. Okay? But you didn't even have that. All Tampa was telling everybody was, this is the guy.
Yep.
So it made no sense. It wasn't predictable that the consensus would tilt against Rachaad White so hard, and you would have analysts saying he's bad. That was just shocking to me. That so surprised me. And that's why, having a guy like R.C. Fisher on the Mind of Mansion show for 3 hours is such an important part of what we do at this network, this podcast network. You subscribe to the Player Profiler Podcast Network because you know there's going to be a show with R.C. Fisher where it's like he comes on and says, no, I think he's going to outperform Bijan Robinson this year. That's not crazy at all. I think he was one of the best running back prospects we've seen. And it's like, Well, thank you. Thank you. You're not necessarily on Sirius XM every day. Like, you're not a massive Twitter personality that everybody knows. But guess what? You pay attention to a lot of the right details. And you may be an under-the-radar analyst, but when you come on, your analysis is logical. It rings true. And thank you. Thank you for supporting us as we felt like we were alone in the wilderness with what seemed to be one of the more obvious positions on a player. And it was the reason why, he was the singular reason why I was so confident in zero RB this year. Zero RB only worked, in my opinion, because you had Rachaad White always there for you in the 7th round if you wanted to push it, or 6th round if you wanted to reach. And that was all you could. So you could always run a zero RB team. And now zero RB ended up being such an incredible smash this year for a bunch of reasons. James Cook and Raheem Mostert and Christian McCaffrey not performing in the fantasy football championship, Austin Eckler flaming out all year, Bijan Robinson underperforming, Jonathan Taylor barely playing in the first half, Nick Chubb getting injured. So there were so many reasons why zero RB was like the biggest smash in the last 10 years of that strategy. But it all started with the kernel of like, wait, zero RB can really work this year was Rachaad White.
Yep. Theo, so that begs the question then. Is there, I always make the joke, this year's Cooper Kupp, that's been a thing for a couple of years. Who's this year's Rachaad White?
Well, the person I predicted was Tyjae Spears. And I think that there's a lot of similarities between Tyjae Spears and Rachaad White's rookie seasons. It's almost identical in terms of the reception totals. I think Rachaad White beat him by like 3 receptions. They're both right around 50 receptions. Rushing-wise, there's not like a argument against like an inefficiency. Tyjae Spears was at 4.4 yards per carry, but much like Rachaad White, he didn't run for any touchdowns. Matt, can I use the positive touchdown regression, or do we have to change the? I'm not going to even
progression.
Say it. I'm just going to say he's going to score more touchdowns with more opportunities this year.
Is it progression, or am I saying that wrong? Like, if it's the opposite of regression, or is it really positive regression?
Progression. Matt has a positive touchdown regression. Podfather hates the term. So like,
because it's an oxymoron,
right? It should be progression, right?
Right.
Progression.
And part of the word oxymoron is what everyone that was hating Rachaad White last year is.
But Tyjae Spears drafted very similar range, both 3rd-round picks. Yeah. And also we have the fact that we're going to get the discount on the offense because no one's going to be excited to draft Tennessee Titans. So you have a young, exciting back who is a very good receiver out of the backfield on a team where he has a path to being, the 2nd most targeted Titan. And I think that that Tennessee's not going to draft a running back highly because they've done it for 2 straight drafts. They drafted Hassan Haskins on day 2, and then they drafted Tyjae Spears on day 2. They got one very right.
Did you just say they're not going to draft someone because they have Hassan Haskins, who I think is out of the NFL?
Whoa, Hassan Haskins was a day 2 pick?
Wasn't he a round 4 pick?
Was the round 4, right? Was he round 4? Correct.
I'll look him up while you guys are talking, but I think it's round 4.
That is an awful pick. That's even worse than the Tank Bigsby pick.
It was a really bad one.
Oh, but God.
Tyjae Spears, guys, that's where it's at. He's going to have the same arguments about he's going to have to dodge people in the NFL draft, but at the end of the day, he's the sort of back with his receiving ability that
Theo, draft pick 4.26, 26th pick of the 4th round.
I was going to say, I was going to eat my hat if he was a day 2 pick.
And I accidentally clicked on Dwayne Haskins. Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
Yep. Hey, guys.
Thanks for that, Alan. Thanks for that. Really killing the momentum of the show.
Killing the momentum.
Show momentum killer, Alan Seslowsky.
That's a dead pick.
But that's it, Alan. Tyjae Spears. That's your Rachaad White this year.
Yep. All right, let's pause here, guys. Quick word from those who are supporting the show, and we'll come back with a couple more of Theo's predictions, and Podfather and I will analyze them with you, Theo, for 2024 Dynasty Fantasy Football.
This episode is brought to you by Rival Fantasy. Rival Fantasy, the coolest fantasy platform not enough people know about, but they will once I'm done, baby, because they're always innovating. They just rolled out seasonal leagues. We set them up for patrons, for our listeners, and they funded over $1,000 in payouts. That's what Rival's all about. They're always innovating. They already had the fantasy book where you can take overs and unders, stack them up, multiply your payout, but then they added challenges so you can set your own lines and put them out there for the community, and then you can browse the community's lines and say, hey, this guy's crazy, I'm going to take the other side. It's cool. And they have fantasy bingo. Rival Fantasy is reminding me how much fun I can have with fantasy football, and use that promo code PLAYER. The promo code is PLAYER. They give you a $100 instant deposit match plus $25 plus a free play. That promo code is PLAYER for up to $125 in deposit bonus and a free play. You can't beat it.
Sonic Truth making our predictions for 2024 based on Theo Gremminger's X post. But hey, guys, let's in single quarterback leagues.
Can I talk about Tyjae Spears, please?
Oh, sure.
Am I not allowed? Do you go to commercial and I can't talk about Tyjae? Alan, you're killing me today. 2024, you're killing the momentum of the show. You're cutting me off. You're not letting me talk.
Oh, I mean, you never get a chance. You never get a chance. You're right. We should
never talk on the show. It's funny. When I'm producing the show behind the scenes, editing the audio, and I could see the swaths of audio that is the Podfather, and then I see the little clips of Alan, and then less of Theo, and then it puts into context like just how much I fucking talk. And so, no, at no point are you preventing me from talking. I'm just,
it's called irony. It's called irony.
This is a complete Alan fuck with show, and I'm very happy to do it. Tyjae Spears also has a knee that is missing an ACL, and that is going to be a narrative that I can guarantee is going to be the thing that is he's undersized. He has less ligaments than a normal person. They're going to find reasons, man. They're going to find reasons. You already talked about the overall offense will be anemic. The offensive line, similar to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also in decline. So there's going to be lots of narratives to distract people away from the fact that this guy's headed for a huge opportunity share, 50-plus catches, and when the ball's in his hands, he's even more electric laterally than Rachaad White. So there are aspects of his game that are even more exciting than Rachaad White. So yeah, permission to get fully and completely excited about Tyjae Spears, and in startups and Dynasty, I would be comfortable having him as my first running back drafted. Because, in startups, I'm drafting running backs later and later, and if I post up Tyjae Spears as my first running back, just like I had startups last year, Dynasty startups, where Rachaad White was my first running back drafted. I'm going to do the same thing with players like Tyjae Spears. Allow you to load up on wide receivers in those first few rounds.
Yeah, I think Theo, just that the thing with Tyjae Spears is he's a lock to not get a second contract. So just remember that part, right? I mean, no one's going to sign him for big money for the reasons of the ACL. Go ahead.
It's 3 years.
That's
3 years, Alan.
Just know that it's not.
If you're
like
looking beyond 3 years, you know when 3 years is? That's you're talking about 2027, Alan. That's what you're talking about. We have 2024, 2025, 2026 to the end of his contract, and now you're talking about 2027, Alan. Really?
Go ahead, Theo.
Alan, you can get the. If you want to go, not to geek out on redraft yet, but you can start out a draft with CeeDee Lamb, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Jalen Waddle, and then sit back and draft your Tyjae Spears in like the 6th round. So yeah, I'm with it. I think this year there's going to be more running back enthusiasm in both Dynasty and in redraft at the top of startups, and I think you can pounce on that and get even better wide receiver value and wait on guys like Spears. But yeah, Spears is definitely an exciting one to watch this offseason for sure.
I think it's the 2022 running back draft class and the 2023 running back draft class are what I'm most excited about. So if you go back to 2022, who's a guy that's looking like he might be headed for a big increase in earned opportunities with 100-yard-plus games, Zamir White. Zamir White's not going to be drafted. He was a day 3 pick, right? Yeah. But he's actually really fast, super explosive, a lot more explosive than Josh Jacobs ever was. And then they put him in. Oh, he's great, right? Yeah. How many players in the 2024 NFL draft, how many running backs had a better resume than Zamir White did at Georgia? Think about it that way. Right? So there's plenty of great young. You don't have to make compromises in Dynasty and draft guys like Raheem Mostert. You could still draft young players that just have partial resumes, like Rachaad White. Remember, he only had around 200 carries. So he had a partial season, and he was relatively inefficient in that season, and he was on what was considered to be a substandard offense. So those are the opportunities we can still draft. You got to draft young running backs. You got to get your running backs pre-apex. No one's saying go draft old running backs, but there's still plenty of discounts available in the dented can bin for running backs under 25 years old.
Yeah, there's going to be some good discounts on the older running backs if you want to build your team with tight ends and young wide receivers. The Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, I'm assuming those guys are not going to be like push people out of the way to get them. They're just going to kind of fall to you. But it leads me into the next prediction that Theo made. And guys, it really Kyren Williams, I think, is interesting because I don't care how set you are on Kyren Williams and what he's produced, his size and his draft capital does cause like the smallest grain of doubt in there. Now, again, I'm ignoring it.
I'm grain of doubt?
Even on his most, I was going to say, even on his most bullish fantasy managers. But listen, if you took him in the 5th round of your rookie draft a couple years ago, you're rotting him. But in new startups,
you're trading him, you mean?
Oh, okay. See, I have a different viewpoint, but go ahead, Theo.
No, I think that's an interesting debate because I think Matt's cash out on Kyren Williams. You can make an argument for that. And Alan can also make an argument that the trade market doesn't equal what you're going to get this year. And I realize there's some arguments because he's a 6th round draft pick. But Matt, you're talking about 21.3 points per game. And this is Sean McVay's guy. They ran Cam Akers out of town for Kyren Williams. And last year we saw Cam Akers get this considerable volume down the stretch and look good doing it. And Sean McVay runs him out of town for Kyren. Last year, Kyren, they wanted Kyren to be a thing as a rookie, and then he got injured.
5th round running, by the way. 5.21 is where he went. I just looked it up.
Yeah, so a day 3 guy, and a smaller one, but he's
slow
and efficient, and a guy who can catch passes. And Matt, I'll say this: I think that the receiving work.
You mean like Michael Carter?
I mean, but he already did it. Once these guys showed
Michael Carter did it. Damian Pierce did it. James Robinson did it.
They never did this.
So James Robinson is the argument. But James Robinson was an undrafted free agent, and again, much like Kyren Williams, he ran a higher drafted running back out of town. He ran Leonard Fournette out of town.
And let's remember
the undrafted. But
let's
that's
remember
the only
also
argument.
James Robinson got derailed by a catastrophic injury. That's why he got derailed. He was not slowing down before that.
This is a tale as old as time. These trap running backs, these day 3 running backs. In fact, this show was founded by Nate Liss, and one of Nate Liss's hobby horse topics, and I had pushed back. I love to push back on him because I like day 3 running backs. You guys know this. I just talked about Zamir White, and there's a whole bunch of them I like. Right, it's typically where you can find value, and I would clash with Nate Liss, and time again, that was probably the topic area where Nate Liss dominated me the most. Was the cashing out on day 3 running backs that flash for 10 games or however many games the previous year, a partial season, they flash big play, they win people championships. That's even better. A guy comes in and wins people championships, whether it be Dion Lewis. I mean, you can go, it's just a tale as old as time. The reason why I'm bullish on Zamir White and Tyjae Spears is because they're not expensive.
Right. But hey,
like Kyren Williams is going to go rounds before those guys.
Matt Kelly, listen here. Listen, this is the pushback on it because the reason that Nate Liss and you had that argument was because there's no allegiance to these guys. I think Theo pointed out that Sean McVay actually has an allegiance to Kyren Williams as if he was drafted in round 2.
Stop it.
That is McVay's guy, and that was Stafford's guy too. I'll say this.
The time you spent with McVay, where you went to his mansion in Beverly Hills, and you spent time looking out at the Pacific Ocean with him and his beautiful wife. That time, Theo, where he told you to your face how he feels really down deep about Kyren Williams.
He shows us with his actions, Matt.
Yeah,
and with his eyes. He shows you with his eyes.
You can read his eyes.
Did you guys see the quote from Kyren this week when they said the starters are going to rest? Kyren was like, "Hey, do I still get to practice?" I mean, he's that type of player. How many young players?
Oh my God!
He's got a lunch pail mentality, Matt.
The lunch pail.
He's a gym rat. Cliche alert.
Jesus Christ!
I like that one though.
But
what
listen,
is happening?
Guys, Kyren Williams, this is it. Matt,
cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert!
It was actually two
Cliches in one.
It was a double cliche. I said 2 cliches, Matt.
Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert! Cliche alert!
The bomb at the end is the best part.
What's the cash out though, Matt? Like this is the thing with Kyren Williams.
Would you take one of the rookie? Would you take RB1 in this class, whoever it is, Henderson, or whoever ends up being the RB1? Would you take that player if he's drafted in round 2 straight up for Kyren Williams, Matt Kelly?
Yes.
Okay.
What? You're any first round pick? My God, pick 10, 11, 12. Don't care. Give me the pick.
No way.
No way.
You can
Not
right
no
now. You
way.
Can get, so Matt, I'll tell you this.
I think you could get more though. Like here's the thing. This is what I'm talking about. I'm not saying, hey guys, go get the bare minimum that I would take for Kyren Williams. No one's saying that. I'm saying this is what I think he's worth, and if the market were different, I'd be happy to take it. But we know the market to be stronger. Like people just won leagues with this guy. And there's all these narratives around him that he is a hard worker and that coaches love him and that he's this all-purpose back, and all he's doing is putting up 150 yards and 30-plus fantasy points week in, week out. That was 2023. That's not going to be 2024. This team's offensive line has been better than expected because of Avila and Havenstein. It's better than we thought, right? We knew they'd
Alan,
at least they have, Rob Havenstein. He's the anchor of that offensive line. They bring in Avila, right? They draft Avila, just the perfect second-round pick, and now all of a sudden they've got a great interior run-blocking unit in L.A., but it's still a fragile unit. For years, this team could not invest in any depth whatsoever because they punted all their picks to win that one championship, and they did it. Congratulations. You got Ramsey, you got all these guys. You won the championship. Good job, right? But this is a fragile roster, a fragile team, a fragile defense, a fragile offensive line. I would cash out.
Go ahead, Theo.
If I'm cashing out and I have that mentality, then I'm contacting the owner with the 104 in single quarterback.
You're going. You think you can go all the way up to the 104?
Yes,
I think you can get the 104. I think the 104 people view this class right now. They're not getting the top 3, but I think there are managers out there.
That's a quarterback.
Well, no, this is non super flex.
Oh, okay, okay, non
super flex. Allen's a different ball game, but like I'm not cashing out low on Kyren because I think he's got the difference between him and like James Robinson was always a sell because sharp ones were always moving on from the undrafted free agent. With Kyren, it's really a 2 years with McVay here, and he was drafted. It's a little bit different.
You think he's Arian Foster? That this is what you're saying?
Yeah. Oh, great comp right there. I mean, obviously the size difference.
Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not.
What do you mean no? Arian Foster had a 2-year run.
This is what you have to say in order to justify this.
I'm kicking the tires on the 104, Matt. I think the 104, it's a heat check offer. and you go offer the manager with the 104, and you with the way you do it, Alan, is I ask for the 104 and I ask for a 2 or a 3, and then the counter's coming back with the 104 without the other pick or a lower pick,
So
and you'll see where they're at.
Not what name is the 104, but what is that? WR, is it the third wide receiver? Because was it going to be? It's going to be Bowers and 3 receivers?
It's going to be Rome Odunze. It's going to be
whoever the third receiver is.
Or like Matt talked about, we have a class where people are negative towards the running back, but if like the Dallas Cowboys draft one in round 2, one of those guys is going to shoot up. I like the running back class more than some. Some people think this running back class is dead.
We'll see how it all goes.
It's a bad running back. You agree?
Well,
this is a below average running back class.
100%. It's definitely not as good as the last 2 years, but I don't buy in that this is Bishop Sankey year. I think there's a couple guys that I like more than some. But I agreed, Matt. It's like compared to the last couple of years, it's definitely bad.
And what's interesting,
can you listen to us for a second? We're Pollinari and Foster, Bishop Sankey.
We're sharp over here.
Dion Lewis. God, we're doing great.
Guys, and what's very interesting is that what you're thinking is a down running back class coincides with a strong free agent veteran running back class. The Barkleys, Derrick Henry. I mean, even like the low guys like Gus Edwards, Josh Jacobs. I mean, all these guys, Austin Eckler, all these guys are going to be able to find new homes if indeed the running back class is down like you're predicting.
It's a really good running back free agent class. I think that's almost another show for us to kind of talk about. Like a guy like Tony Pollard is like running back 6, running back 5 in the free agent class. It's a lot of guys right now that some teams might view, and also like we talked about weeks ago when we talked about DeAndre Swift, is guys are going to have to take some bargains. People are not going to get these Jonathan Taylor contracts because there's just so many running backs available.
Here's the list. Here's like top 5 free agent running backs. And then we can move on to your predictions. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Pollard, Eckler, Zeke is going to be in demand. Gus Edwards, DeAndre Swift, CEH will probably get a job. And then it kind of tails off. And there's a lot of other names. Zach Moss. I mean, there's names here, guys.
Yeah.
Zach Moss is the name of a football player. You're right, Alan. That is the name
He'll get
of
a job.
football player.
He'll get a job.
Remember how Zach Moss was performing at a Kyren Williams level in the first half of the season? Do you remember that?
4 weeks. Kyren gave you like 8 20 points or more weeks. And and Kyren gave you 2 like 35-point weeks this year.
You can mark me down, write it down in ink as a Kyren Williams skeptic. Do you think I could get like a veteran running back plus a late first rounder for Kyren Williams? Can I get like Joe Mixon and the 110 for Kyren Williams?
Easily.
That's a great pivot, and that's a sort of pivot trade that I think is going to be out there, where if you don't believe in him, you can get a pick and a player, because there's some people that really do believe in him. But I do think
the thing is, you get a running back who could outperform Kyren Williams this year, and then you also get a first-round wide receiver from what's going to be a strong wide receiver class. This is how you win in Dynasty.
That's fair.
You use the running back position. Any time a running back spikes the football in the valuation in the marketplace, you flip him, you get a running back in return, right? You get a best case scenario last year in terms of veteran running backs would have been getting like a Raheem Mostert in return, right? Just worth nothing. Just total throw in. And then you also get a first round wide receiver. Remember, once upon a time, Justin Jefferson in Superflex was the 111.
Yeah.
Right? That's where you could get to Justin Jefferson.
How about, would you take David Montgomery in a first for Kyren Williams? Well, 110, like he said. Matt Kelly, would you cash out for that? Would you?
David Montgomery's still a Lion.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying to you.
Well, like, he's not. He's coming back to Detroit for one more year.
No, he's Alan's saying in like the sense for your trade.
No, but I know, but that's a smash.
Yeah.
Okay, so
David Montgomery's gonna have another good year.
If I'm offering you,
it's like a sure thing. That's that's a bird in the hand. You know what you're getting with David Montgomery. He's going to give you 12 plus fantasy points a game next year as the primary back for the Lions, which is what he's going to be again.
Yeah. All right.
He's going to get the touchdowns. It's going to be. I know it's going to be a specialist backfield, and the Lions could score more running back fantasy points than any other team in the league next year. But just because we know Gibbs is great doesn't mean that Montgomery won't also. Remember Thomas Jones? There we go again.
Old school names today, guys.
That's it. That's it. Remember, Thomas Jones was a great value for multiple seasons in his time in Kansas City because they was like, oh, well, they've got Jamal Charles. I mean, they were like, wait a second. Thomas Jones putting up, top 20 seasons.
There's plenty of examples of that. The Kamara, Mark Ingram, all that kind of stuff. But this is actually a good transition to one of Theo's predictions here. Theo, we're talking about the Lions being one of the highest scoring. We love Sam Laporta as tight end 1, but what if offensive coordinator Ben Johnson's not there? You're predicting that the Carolina Panthers, your prediction number 19, make him the next head coach of the team. So it's a two-pronged question here. Does that give you, I guess it has to give you optimism for the quarterback of Carolina, who had a very bad year, Bryce Young, but also does that have any skepticism towards the Lions without Ben Johnson?
We had Josh Larkey on with Billy Muzio and I yesterday on First Class Fantasy, and we did a 2024 2-round redraft. Like we ranked players and we all just went around the horn. Really good one. And this same question came up because in redraft and in dynasty startups, you're going to have Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta both going inside of like the top 15 overall, startups and redraft. And does Ben Johnson make a big factor in your evaluation for these players? Certainly Ben Johnson is a tremendous offensive mind, but these are young players who put up dominant stats in all three in their first year in the league. And Amon-Ra St. Brown has now done it for 3 straight years. Amon-Ra St. Brown hits career highs in yardage, touchdown catches, receptions. Jahmyr Gibbs, guys, gets 52. If I told you guys in the preseason that Jahmyr Gibbs has like 50 catches, what does he finish as an RB? You guys would have laughed and said that's a bust because his path is a bunch of receptions. The guy finishes like RB8 with 50 receptions. He's a locked-in stud. And Sam Laporta has the best tight end season overall. Ben Johnson deserves the money, deserves a job, but we're not saying that these elite players have their success based on an offensive coordinator. They check that one out. And also the mentality of Dan Campbell, like this is an aggressive dude who goes for it on fourth down all the time. He's not bringing in somebody who's going to all of a sudden like reel the offense back and become like some unexciting defensive team. This team is going to be pedal to the metal. Ben Johnson imitator. They'll probably just promote from within and have somebody who tries to emulate his offense rather than change it.
You remember Kellen Moore?
There you go, Matt. And what happened with CeeDee Lamb when Kellen Moore left?
You guys remember Kellen Moore? Remember Kellen Moore unlocked the Cowboys offense and then the Cowboys were going to suffer because he left and went to the Chargers. Remember that?
Yeah.
You guys remember that? Remember Kellen Moore?
Boise State's
and
finest.
remember a fellow named Mark Trestman? remember Mark Trestman?
I like Mark Trestman.
Yeah, there were a lot of running backs that got drafted because Mark Trestman was a great unlock of running backs, including Justin Forsett. Another one.
That's a good ranking list, by the way. A good ranking list, like
Forsett.
the fake alpha coordinators.
Oh, I think Trestman was one of the greatest of the fake coordinators.
Yeah, that's a good topic. I really do like that.
Justin Forsett was a 4th-round pick in seasonal leagues.
Oh, dude, he got up to the 3rd in the NFFC.
Yes,
Yep.
Justin Forsett was like one of my co-managers, Nelson Sousa, has the rule that if a guy is a waiver wire ad the year before, just don't draft him, and he steams up and like becomes like a first 6th round guy.
Pick. Yeah.
You never ever draft him, and that's the litmus test.
Whoa,
Forsett.
Kyren
Let's
Williams.
take a step back. Whose profile on Player Profile on Player Profiler? Whose profile is shockingly similar to Justin Forsett?
Don't do it, Matt. Kyren Williams pouring cold water on Kyren Williams, making the argument for us against us. But Alan, we'll hold strong here, Alan. Yeah. And I'll say this: yesterday, guys, Kyren Williams goes inside the 1st round with Billy Muzio, Larkey, and I. So redraft, he's heading there too, guys.
Yeah.
Well, you guys drafted him there?
We did. Everybody liked him right around that, right around the 1-2 turn.
Yeah, but
like
that's
Kyren Williams.
You're not going to get him on Underdog, Theo. The Underdog rankings are already up. He's pick 5. He's going to go in the top 5.
He's steaming. He's steaming. But this was like the we're wide receiver snobs too.
And the reason I cite underdog is because a lot of people play best ball in there, and they're going to see him as pick 5 and then think like, okay, that's his ADP. We'll see where it shakes out.
Are you talking about for playoff best ball?
No, I'm talking about for 2024 best ball rankings.
The early
Shut
ones.
the fuck up.
He's going to be right around there. He's in the middle of the first round on their first
What?
test.
What?
I
This
agree.
is where I don't understand. This is the reverse Rachaad White. This is
What do you
reverse where I'm like, wait, what? You can get the 4th pick in
Yeah, I'm
a
ahead of
rookie
A.J.
draft
Brown.
in Dynasty? Wait, he's going in the 5th pick overall in seasonal leagues?
5th to 6th.
In what world am I living in?
I agree with you there because I like where Theo has him slotted in as the 1-2 turn. I think that at least gives you a choice because you'll see when you do these mock drafts after pick 10, Matt Kelly, you're not going to like love any of the picks, but yeah, they're underdog's going to have him ahead of AJ Brown. They're going to have, which is wild to me, but hey, we'll see. Listen, the best balls haven't opened yet. ADP is the Wild West, which I like early on, and then we'll see.
Where's Saquon Barkley going?
I'm going to pull it up for you because I did save it. But
Saquon Barkley is a great dynasty ad, a great trade target, a great guy to draft in startups because it's only going to get better.
Barkley is pick 16 in the early.
It can only get better, but the beauty is in dynasty he's well past the age apex. But the guy takes phenomenal care of his body. He's going to age well. He's going to end up going somewhere to a playoff team that actually values him. They're going to throw him more passes. It's going to be incredible.
The only problem
this is a guy where it's all upside when hitting free agency.
Yeah.
So Matt, it's funny, and Alan, you'll like this too. I try to look at some of the early lines that the bookies put out for these free agents, and it's Saquon right now is still Giants minus 250. So
they
there's a
can
lot of people think
franchise
he's
him.
going to go back because they can franchise tag him. But the team that's number 2, Matt, is the Houston Texans at plus 750, where our heads would explode if you had C.J. Stroud attached to Saquon Barkley.
They would do it.
They
They would do it. That's a
1,000,000%.
team that would absolutely pay up for a running back. Absolutely. Especially Devin Singletary. Look what Devin Singletary did. Talk about Kyren Williams. Devin Singletary is a degraded, lesser, inferior version of Kyren Williams in every way, and he was putting up 25 fantasy points a game for a period of time.
Saquon to Houston, Alan, we would be so excited. But yeah,
Come on, the Giants have to move on. They can franchise tag him again. They can't do this. They
Not
can't
again.
do
Not
it. Don't
by the
do
way.
it.
It's not again. Remember, this blows my mind, but he let go of the franchise tag last year to get a contract. So now it's only one franchise tag. He was not franchise tagged last year.
I
he
forgot about that.
basically-
That's a great point.
So it's not even the
Saquon.
double tag. The double tag he would be getting, I think it's 40% greater than the average of the top 10 running backs. He would only be at the average of the top 10 running backs, if I understand the franchising tag rule correctly.
They need to rebuild that franchise in New York. Franchise tagging Saquon Barkley would be catastrophically stupid.
Matt, they have allowed the second most sacks in NFL history right now by a wide margin. They're like, it's insane how many sacks they've allowed. They have so many holes on that team. And yeah, but I think they'll bring back
Saquon on the Texans would be a first-round pick in seasonal leagues on Underdog for sure.
Yes.
would be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, people are having dynasty startups right now. I've heard the dynasty startups are already happening. Now is the time. Before there's any movement with Barkley, you got to get him now in dynasty.
I saw a big high stakes dynasty trade go down today. People are rounding up, and I saw Chris Olave for George Pickens, a first and a second from one of the better FFPC managers out there, like high stakes manager.
It's so funny. I made that exact trade for Olave. I gave up Pickens and a first to get Olave. I did that exact, not with the second, but I did that exact trade in a league.
I believe it was 2025 second and 2025 first, not 2024 on this one, but it's still it's about the same what you gave up, Alan.
Yep. Yeah. Very interesting. All right.
So Chris Olave, so Chris Olave, with all those unrealized air yards, basically they're saying, hey, let's go and find the guy with the highest number of unrealized air yards and just trade for him.
Right. And give
Whatever
up a
it
late
takes.
pick 110, 111, 112. Because usually it's somebody, you're not going to give up a top 5 pick plus Pickens.
Chris Olave is going to go nuclear in 2024. We can all agree on this. This is a great trade to get Olave at all costs.
Theo's not as bullish.
I'm not. I don't know if I'm quite there because the Derek Carr factor. Like Derek Carr, like I don't think the nuclear season happens with Derek Carr. I think Chris Olave is really safe for Dynasty. I think he's a really safe value, but I don't see the. I'm not quite there yet with you guys. Like redraft, I think he'll go about similar range as he went this year. Dynasty startups, I'm not sure if he's going to gain any Dynasty startup value because I think a couple of these guys that are entering the draft are going to be right in that same mix of where you would want to take Olave.
Would you agree with getting out of Pickens right now?
This is the window.
But he got the first and the second on top of Pickens. So yeah, I think Pickens right now, like the window, devil's advocate for Pickens is he had the big injury. So like he didn't have an offseason to prepare as a rookie. This was the first season he had an offseason to prepare. And he's been able to put up big stats on the front end of the season and the back end at 22 years old. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily like I'm okay trading Pickens, but I'm not like actively like just pounding the table looking to sell just to sell. Cause he did this at 22 and Matt, he's just going to have the second most yardage all time for a Pittsburgh Steeler in their first 2 years in the league. Like historically what he's done is strong.
Who was number 1? Juju?
Juju.
Yeah.
But he's passed a bunch of other guys by. Like, I think Pickens is a really interesting guy to discuss in the offseason because 22 years old to put up stats like this and come off of the injury and now he's got 2 years in the league under his belt. He's basically rookie aged with production.
Theo, what you're saying is if all things go well, he'll turn into Juju Smith-Schuster?
Different than Juju.
So you like that? You actually like the Pickens side of that trade?
I can see it both ways. I think of it. This manager also thinks these will end up being like a very early first, 2025 first and second. He thinks it could be a top 5 pick in each round. So, I think it's a fine pivot. I think that like you can make an argument both ways. This is exactly like the kind of dynasty trade that I like because it creates conversation. It's not a ripoff. You and Alan see it one way as a big win. I see it as possibly a win on the other side, but I'm okay.
No, I don't see it as a big. I don't see it as a big win on the Olave side. I just think getting Olave is a great idea.
Yeah, and by the way, in my scenario, it's pick. Like I knew which pick I was giving up. I think it was 110 or 19 or 111. It was one of those right there. Whereas you're saying the guy just threw in the shake the Yahtzee the dice for pick 5. There's more risk in that one because if it ends up being pick 5, then it becomes a dangerous trade for the guy who gave it up.
But also, Pickens has incredible upside.
Yeah.
Of all the guys that are down in that zone of the dynasty rankings, you think about Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, right? Cooper Kupp, George Pickens, Jaden Reed's now in that conversation. He's in that zone. He's in that tier. Drake London.
And Matt, it's another player profiler win for us is George Pickens because there was the George Pickens can't separate crowd that thought he was like garbage coming off his rookie year, and we consistently had him a little higher than consensus. And it's not claiming a Rachaad White like win, but I think if you're the perception of George Pickens in year 2, a lot of people have to kind of flip their priors. Like he proved a lot this year, goes over 1,000 yards as a 22-year-old. There was a lot of people who wanted to get out of George Pickens after that rookie season. The can't separate crowd. A million analysts had that like George Pickens hatred, and we were consistent with like our George Pickens pretty good.
Who had worse quarterback play? Did anybody? Did anybody in the league have worse quarterback play than George Pickens? What he suffered, and he got over 1,100 yards, 13 fantasy points a game, over 1,400 air yards, 100 plus targets. 18 yards of reception.
Yeah.
Even at yards after the catch, he put up close to 400 yards after the catch, which was top 15 in the league.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if Kenny Pickett is given the job back or he has to earn it back next year, right? I mean, that's a big question.
He had a 38% dominator rating among all Pittsburgh wide receivers. It was number 5 in the NFL. His target premium, which is how many fantasy points per target are you scoring over and above the other receivers on your team was plus 34%, which is number 4 in the league. Okay, so his unrealized air yards was also top 15. So to trade one unrealized air yards king for another, that's not the answer. That's not the move. Right? I'm not saying that's the move. I mean, he had a 100% route participation. The guy was out there for every snap, every play, ran every route. What are we talking? No. Like that. It's one thing, to trade an older receiver or a receiver that you has greater question marks. But George Pickens kind of answered a lot of those questions. Right? You want to trade Christian Watson, that's something else. Right? Fine. Right? You want to trade Christian Watson, who is a total wildcard. We have no idea what he's going to be. Right? He could basically, the idea that Christian Watson's better than George Pickens, I think, is now laughable. Right? But I'm sure there's plenty of analysts that believe, oh yeah, he just had an injury marred season and he's going to come back as a wide receiver 1 next year. No, that's those days are over. It's the Jaden Reed show in Green Bay. So Christian Watson, he's a big mover down. Like the Underworld Weekly newsletter is coming out today. I mean, go to playerprofiler.com, scroll down to the bottom. You can put your email in, subscribe to our newsletter. We have the Dynasty Movers every week. And Christian Watson's moving down again. Right? It's just been a steady march downward. So if you want to trade a Christian Watson, you want to trade an older receiver like a Mike Evans, you want to trade a receiver who's now a clear beta like a Deontay Johnson, you want to trade one of those guys, you want to trade a Chris Godwin, and multiple picks for Olave, sure. Right? But you're setting yourself up. If you do Pickens, right, or you do Drake London in that deal, you're setting yourself up to be underwater, where they're on par a year from now, and now you have a bunch of picks coming in.
Yep. All right, guys, next prediction. I think that was good conversation because you're going to see a lot of trades like that. I like that you brought up Christian Watson. I'm going to be very curious. I mean, I already think Jaden Reed will go ahead of him. We had this discussion for redraft, and I think that's in Dynasty. That's like signed, sealed, delivered. But I want to talk about some veteran wide receivers. One of Theo's predictions is that he believes Mike Evans is going to sign with a contender. He named the Chiefs. My gut feeling is that Mike Evans is going to stay home, especially if they win the division, go into the playoffs, and maybe win a game. All right, we'll see. But Mike Evans, it's funny, like these type of players, him, Keenan Allen, are always dead in Dynasty. But Mike Evans, I fully expect him to be a second-round pick and redraft next year, Theo. Yeah. So what do you think that the acquisition of a player like Mike Evans, was that totally revived Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs?
I think that it's just that the train is headed towards the Chiefs being more wide receiver centric and a lot less Travis Kelce no matter what happens. I think there's a slight scenario that Travis Kelce retires this offseason, and that's probably not going to happen. He probably comes back, but I think it's Rashee Rice and whatever wide receiver that they either draft or they get in free agency or trade for. Kansas City needs weapons. The offense is completely stuck in the mud. And Alan, that's probably the correct one, saying Mike Evans returns to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's going to have to pay him, but they're about to win the NFC South.
Right. Why wouldn't you, though, right? I mean, talk about face of a franchise, right? I mean, go ahead.
Mike Evans has the 6th most touchdown catches in Bucs history. If you look at like most touchdown catches by a Buck, it's the top 6 seasons are all Mike Evans. It's simply amazing what he's done. But I think like the Mike Evans,
I thought you meant the 6th most. I was like, is that a good thing to be?
No, the total touchdowns. Like
I got you.
Seasons with the most touchdowns. It's insane. But I really think Kansas City, it's going to be less reliance on Travis Kelce this offseason. I think they're going to have to do some self-scouting. Rashee Rice was an absolute win for them, but they need more help at the wide receiver position. Mike Evans is the one to go get. The Michael Pittmans and T. Higgins are going to be a lot more expensive and longer-term guys. Mike Evans might want to go play with Patrick Mahomes for 2 seasons and chase a ring. As much goodwill as Baker Mayfield has this year, he's going to get 30 touchdown passes and 4,000 yards passing, and they're going to win their division. Tampa Bay's not going to a Super Bowl. Kansas City, with you add Mike Evans to Rashee Rice, that's pretty good right there.
Podfather, some early of the startup talk, because we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Patrick Mahomes, 28 years old, should he be on buy low lists right now if the Chiefs stay the same? Let's say they run it back with Rachaad White. They sign they sign like a Gabe Davis, right? Because that's like a free agent that's out there. Nothing crazy. Like that's their MVS replacement. Where should Patrick Mahomes be valued in the startup drafts and like Superflex terminology? That mindset.
His brand equity is too good. You can't get a discount on him. You're not gonna.
Yeah, I think Matt's right on that.
You don't think you can offer CJ Stroud and a first-round rookie pick to get him, or is that overpaying?
Why would I do that?
Okay.
Why I want CJ Stroud?
Okay, so that's
CJ Stroud's
saying.
younger. CJ Stroud's more mobile. CJ Stroud has now better weapons.
Trevor Lawrence and a first, Anthony Richardson and a first, Kyler Murray and a first.
Why would I do any of those trades? What does Patrick Mahomes offer? He's not mobile. He's not giving me the rushing, and he's not the same, level of efficient quarterback that he was the last couple of years because he doesn't have the weapons. He has Rashee Rice. Yes, Rashee Rice is all he has at this point. Would you rather have Rashee Rice or Tank Dell in Dynasty?
Tank Dell, but I can be persuaded the other way easily. Like I don't have, like whatever one comes to me, I'm good with, and they're going to be very close in my personal rankings.
I'm probably going Tank Dell as well, but like they're like Alan said, that's.
But I think that's
similar.
His point. That's Matt's point, right? Like you don't want Rashee Rice because you want Tank Dell because he's attached to CJ Stroud. I think that's his point.
No, I think I agree with Matt. There's not really like a whole upside with Mahomes. I think what's going to be interesting is when you get to the Superflex startups.
Yeah, where will he go?
Does the 103 be a pick that people want to try to pivot off of even more? Because I think it's going to be Allen Hurts and then Mahomes.
Well, a buddy of mine asked me, he's got 101 in a startup, and he said, who do you think you should pick? I said, I wouldn't hate you if you took CJ Stroud 101. I mean, you're asking me who I would take? I would still take Josh Allen. I would still take Patrick Mahomes. I would still take Jalen Hurts. But if you want CJ Stroud, just take him. If you can't trade back, just take the guy you want. There's no like right or wrong answer there. You could see the case for any of these guys.
I want Stroud.
At 101.
Not at 101 over Mahomes.
Oh, okay. All right. No,
it's Allen and Hurts, guys. Come on.
Well,
I'm a Jalen Hurts guy forever.
I'm with you. Sure.
We have Stroud at quarterback 4 in our dynasty rankings. So we have him pretty high up at Player Profiler right now. And I definitely highly recommend you check out our dynasty rankings at Player Profiler. Some really, really cool updates and some really, really strong values there for your startup drafts.
You guys are in line with market. If you use Keep Trade Cut as just like as a price check, a temperature check, they have Stroud at 4 now as well. Really the question, I think that's the big 4, however you tier them. But I think the question for quarterback guys, it really comes at 5. Like, is it firmly Lamar at this point at age 27?
Lamar for me.
Yeah, I agree.
But my question is down below, what do you do with Justin Herbert? Justin Herbert's weapons are getting decrepit. And the big investment they made, the big splashy investment they made was a catastrophic bust in Quentin Johnston. Are they going to do? Are they going to go back to the well? They're going to go back and draft another first-round wide receiver? What are they going to do? They got Mike Williams coming off an ACL. Is Josh Palmer the answer? Do you think Josh Palmer's the guy that's going to elevate Justin Herbert? Do you know how old Keenan Allen is? Keenan Allen's going to be 32.
Chargers pick 6 in the draft this year, so they're in pole position if they want a wide receiver.
They're going to take Bowers or Neighbors at 6. I'm convinced of that, Matt, because the offensive line's in good shape, and like you said, no team needs offensive skill position players more. That's going to be like
to see it. And until I see it, I'm not drafting Justin Herbert. No way.
Yeah.
No way. I'd rather take a swing, especially in one quarterback league. This is clear. I'm taking a swing on Anthony Richardson.
Sure.
Big time. Yeah.
That's one quarterback, yes. Guys, so this year, just points per what's his name? Herbert, he still finished as he did drop a little bit this year. I'm just looking on like a points per game basis here. Herbert finished as QB 16 points per game.
He's a purgatory player right now until they get him better weapons. And Matt, the luxury of being able to use Austin Eckler out of the backfield, that's gone too. Like Eckler's lost a ton, and he's probably not going to be a Charger next year. So it's going to be all kinds of new skill position players around Herbert. Also with the new head coach, it's a big time pressure year for him in terms of fantasy value.
What's the difference between Herbert and Prescott?
There you go. The
Age.
only difference is age. That's the only difference.
Big
Which
deal.
Prescott-
What? One guy's
yeah.
27, 26. The other guy's 30.
25.8, so he'll be 26, like you said. But hey, what's the number one factor that rules the dynasty market? Guys, it's age. So that does play a factor. You can't just write it off like, oh, no big deal, because that number 30 in front of a quarterback is a cycle. When you click on their player card, when you're doing your startup drafts, and you
Prescott
see 31,
has CeeDee Lamb. Prescott's just better. He's proven
doubt.
himself to be a better quarterback than Justin Herbert, and he has CeeDee Lamb. What do you think? You think Prescott's going to retire at age 34, 35? How far out do I want to project these guys? What are we doing?
Gotta love Dak value right now everywhere. I mean, what a season by Dak, and Matt brings up CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb, one of the biggest risers for us at Player Profiler. We weren't low on him. We had him, consistently as our wide receiver 3 overall. But now you got to start talking about CeeDee Lamb as potentially the number 1 overall pick in redraft this 2024 season. If you don't want to go with Christian McCaffrey, you're probably going with CeeDee Lamb. And in Dynasty startups, CeeDee Lamb has gained a ton of value. So,
well, is he the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty?
He is for me right now, because we don't have any question marks like Justin Jefferson has at the quarterback position. We don't have any target competition like Jamar Chase has potentially. And also CeeDee Lamb was a wide receiver 1 overall this year and put up dominant numbers. No reason to think that doesn't stop. So CeeDee Lamb for me is now wide receiver 1 overall in Dynasty. It's wild times.
That's a wild situation, and I agree with it. Yes, I want CeeDee Lamb, of course. Justin Jefferson has quarterback uncertainty staring at him. Explain the quarterback uncertainty in Minnesota.
I still think it's going to end up being Kirk Cousins, because I think that there's going to be kind of a meeting of both sides where Kirk Cousins will get a big 2-year contract to remain in Minnesota. I think, Matt, if I think the idea of Josh Dobbs earning the job and getting a cheap contract, that would have been very convenient for Minnesota, but it obviously backfired on them. And then in terms of the other guys on the roster, there's nothing there. And they're in that weird portion of the draft where they would have to trade up big time to get access to, a Jaden Daniels or a Drake May, let alone a Caleb Williams. Michael Penix is the one, though. Like anybody watching the national championship game, our own Matty Kiwoom, who has a new podcast we highly recommend called Blue Chips, which is a sort of a Devy Dynasty college show that's actually, he's dropping episode number 2 today at 2 p.m. on Friday on Player Profiler YouTube, and then it'll be in our podcast network. He had Michael Penix go at 15 overall in the draft. So Penix is the name for Minnesota that you could see. He's the Washington quarterback. But again, this is not exciting. I think it's going to be Kirk Cousins. I think he'll be back. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, target consolidation with Kirk Cousins. We're already getting a little bit more excited if that happens. So I don't know. I see it happening. I think Kirk Cousins will remain a Viking.
But Cousins won't be ready until week 6 or 7 at the earliest anyway. So they have to do something.
I don't think that's a slam dunk. Is it week 6? I think he could be ready before that, Alan.
He
could be
35.
Is that the timeline?
Well, 35-year-olds that tear their Achilles, I would say a minimum of 1 year, right? I mean, till they're even...
No, not anymore.
9 months is
not
the new
anymore.
ACL. I feel
Terrell Suggs came back the same season.
Okay. 9 months. 9 months.
Who was it? There was another guy that came back. Who was it? There was a running back that came back. Was it Foreman or was it? It was Cam Akers, right? He came back the same season.
Cam Akers, yep. So I think 9 months is the new year when it comes to these injuries. So I think Kirk Cousins legitimately could be ready for week 1, and if not, he'll be ready within the first 4 weeks of the season. And it makes too much sense. They have so much riding on Justin Jefferson in that offense, and the best performances of Justin Jefferson's career all come attached with Kirk Cousins. It works, and also they have the TJ Hawkinson factor, where Hawkinson is banged up, potentially start the year. So they're even more reliant on Jefferson. So I think it's going to be Cousins back in Minnesota. I'm pretty confident in that one.
Yeah, the Achilles is a muscular tendon. It's not a ligament. So they don't have to go in and, replace or repair the ligament and let that heal, and you have to basically relearn how to use your knee. There's none of that. They basically can go in and they repair and then go in with injections to rebuild the muscle fiber. So it's real. The innovation has been the platelet-rich plasma, the stem cell treatments, where they can go in with therapies and quickly rebuild muscle in a way you can't do with ligaments. You can't do on the inside of the knee, but you can do with that Achilles. It's right there on the outside of the leg, and they can just plug away with injections and build the muscle fiber back up at a much faster rate than they could 10 years ago. I mean, there were guys that were going to Germany and getting these procedures done, but now they're mainstream in the United States, and that's why you've seen the biggest leap in improved timelines for injury recovery have been Achilles tears, have been anything related to muscle.
He tore his Achilles on October 30th, so November 1st, more or less. I don't know when he had the surgery because it's probably, if you're saying it's 9 months, it's 9 months from time of surgery. I don't know if he had it a month later or what, but that's week 8, guys. Week 8 is when he had the injury. I wouldn't be
surprised if Cousins is starting week 1. That's where we're at now. That is where we're at. And he's the type of person that will just sell his body out to do whatever he needs to do. He is that type of guy. Right. And, he's not necessarily, and he's talked about it, that he's not necessarily going to take the advice of the standard medical community. So he could go to another country and do something even more cutting edge.
Have Guatemalan surgery.
He could. I just wouldn't put it past him. Like, he knows he's 35. He knows this is it. Like, he's in the twilight of his career. There's his legacy is at stake. He's got Justin Jefferson in his prime. This is one of those things where, remember we talked about Brock Purdy, like, oh, he's getting Tommy John surgery. The leaps that have been made in Tommy John surgery have been incredible. And next thing you know, he's starting week 1. Yeah. Like, wait a second, I thought he was going to come back week 6, week 7, week 8. We thought we were going to see some Trey Lance. No, man. No, it's some of these recovery timetables are totally different. So
here's
this is the case for Justin Jefferson. I'm making a case for Justin Jefferson. It's so close with Lamb, Jefferson, and Chase, because also I think that what's the probability that T. Higgins is still a Bengal next year?
I think good.
I think so as well. I think they're going to franchise tag.
This is that small window to keep the band together. There's no reason to let T. Higgins go there. They can franchise tag him.
But it would be nice, though.
Yeah.
Guys like that
would be nice, but I'm not going to. But that's fantasy hope trafficking, fantasy wanting. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that with Jamar Chase. I let myself get out over my skis with Jamar Chase last year, thinking about a 2,000-yard season, but the Joe Burrow injury ruined that. And now we're going to get T. Higgins back probably on this franchise tag. So you've just got to fire up Lamb and Jefferson and Lamb. These are single quarterback. Those are your first 2 picks in a dynasty startup. Lock them in, right? Lock them in.
Lock them in.
Lock them in. Lock them in. No running backs. No Bijan talk.
Not
right?
anymore.
Lock them in and all the way to Chase. Boom, boom, boom. In dynasty and seasonal leagues, I'm not drafting a running back in the top 3. Period. Doesn't matter the format. Don't care. Not doing it. Not doing it. And sure as hell, I'm not doing it for Kyren Williams. Jesus Christ.
And you get our guy Marvin Harrison Jr. in the mix soon, guys. So I'm with you.
Well, didn't you have a take on Marvin Harrison and his ADP?
I had Marvin. Oh yeah, Marvin Harrison. And I think I might be low on this one. I said Marvin Harrison Jr. will be the highest drafted rookie wide receiver ever in redraft. I think in high stakes leagues, I said the 2-3 turn. But then yesterday with Josh Larkey and Billy Muzio took him 18th overall in our 2024 rankings. So I might be even low on that. And Billy thinks that the steam might rise up to the 1-2 turn in these high stakes leagues with Marvin Harrison Jr.
Who's the previous highest rookie drafted in high stakes?
So just from the last few years, Jamar Chase was like a 6th rounder. Right. Drake London was a 6th rounder.
Yeah, so that's not.
There's a
That's
few
no
other
one in
guys.
the. There's
not
no
a
one in
bar-
the first two rounds.
But I think
Nobody.
he's gonna shatter the glass ceiling.
What if he
for,
ends up on the
for-
Bears? Like, 'cause
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay.
Well,
How about
listen,
New England?
If
New
Marvin,
England.
it doesn't matter. Marvin Harrison Jr. is the offense for wherever he lands. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to get a ton of targets, big physical wide receiver. Like, he's it, guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. is it.
What's best case scenario? Where you want him to go?
Arizona.
Oh, we said it together.
Arizona.
Look at that. We didn't even plan that.
We
Yeah.
want Marvin Harrison to be an Arizona
indoors,
Cardinal.
good weather, good quarterback.
Attached to Kyler Murray, and then that offense has already got Trey McBride. That offense will be able to move the ball, get first downs. Marvin Harrison Jr. with Kyler Murray in Arizona, a head coach that I think knows what he's doing, and he would be the focal point of the offense. I think he would go absolutely nuclear with Kyler Murray. It would be sickening how many stacks there would be with Kyler, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride in like all the high stakes formats and underdog next year.
And
if that happens,
I wouldn't hate him on the Giants either. You know, if they take him.
I don't really hate him anywhere because I think he's going to get 150 targets if he lands on one of these crappy teams.
Well, the only place we would hate him would be like really hate him. I was making a joke about not a joke about the Bears, but if he falls to pick 9 and lands with an Arthur Smith, if they take another blue chip player in the top 10.
He's not falling to 9 though. He's not falling to 9.
Well, maybe I'm just giving you a what if.
He's not going to be a Falcon, dude. Come on, stop it.
He won't.
Stop being stupid. That's a lame, stupid thing to say.
Pick 9.
Your people are listening to this, Alan.
Right.
People are listening. They don't know you're joking.
I'm not joking. I'm saying like, what if
you can't be not joking? You can't say that. That is blasphemy.
Well, we see.
I will not allow those words, Marvin Harrison, Atlanta Falcons, to be uttered on these airwaves. Absolutely not. I won't allow it, Alan. Take it back. Take it back.
4 straight years of offensive
it would be the worst.
Top 10.
It would be the landing spot. I was trying to find one where Theo wouldn't like Marvin Harrison as a top.
Here's
30
one that could conceivably happen if for whatever reason Arizona wants to trade down. The Jets. We wouldn't want him like him and Garrett Wilson could coexist really, really well, but it wouldn't be ideal to have him next to Garrett Wilson. It would cap both of their ceilings. But I do think the Jets are going to go out and get like the Devontae Adams rumors are out there for the Jets. Like them getting another elite, and then the Malik Neighbors, if he's there, the Jets might draft him. Like I think the Jets want a really good wide receiver too. We don't want those two guys next to one another because they both cap each other's target ceilings. That's the only.
You're still bullish on Marvin Harrison as a Patriot.
I think and the Patriots are going to look different, Matt, with a new head coach and a new outlook. But yes, I think if the New England Patriots take Marvin Harrison Jr. In the top 5,
he won't go pick 18.
No, he won't go pick 18 in the top 5. Yeah. Then I think New England has to take a quarterback, don't they?
They're going Drake May. I mean, isn't the clear and obvious move because there's a high probability that the Bears trade the 101. Justin Fields finished the season strong, made a great case to be the long-term franchise quarterback for the Bears. The Bears also enjoyed the fruits of trading the 101 last year, and I think they're going to want to go back to that cornucopia and enjoy it again. So I can see that trade happen. So we don't know who's going to get Caleb Williams. I feel like we know of all the player-team combinations, Drake May to New England. That I feel like we know.
But what about pick 2? Wait a second.
Washington pick 2.
Yeah, what if Washington takes him there?
So right now, if it was chalk, whoever has the number 1 pick takes Caleb Williams. Washington number 2, Drake May, and then Jaden Daniels, guys, for New England, unless they don't like Jaden Daniels. And then that could be Marvin Harrison Jr., but they have to go quarterback. New England, at this point,
I don't think so. You don't have to, because there's so many. Look what happened with Joe Flacco this year. I know it's kind of like these guys pop up all the time. It seems like if Bill Belichick stays there, which I know everyone's already writing him off, why can't you just get a veteran? It's so easy to see, like Andy Dalton is the 2024 quarterback of the New England Patriots. It's like those type of things are so easy to see. And then you build, another way. So I just don't think it's like a foregone conclusion that New England takes a quarterback unless there's the one that they absolutely love. You don't just take the next guy unless you like love that dude, or else you end up taking Sam Bradford number 1 overall. Remember that? Like he was just the best quarterback of a class. He wasn't like a typical number 1 overall pick.
The first 2 picks being quarterback, I don't think is necessarily. I'm not locking that in.
Fair.
Like if I'm Washington, I'm trying to trade up, right? I'm trying to trade up, and then so if the Bears, what they can do, they can trade down to 2. Right, then Washington can take Caleb Williams, and then the Bears might trade down again with a team that wants Marvin Harrison,
or Drake May, or whoever QB2
well,
is.
whatever, right? And then there's so many ways that it can be set up where New England drafts Drake May.
Caleb Williams is also a DMV guy. He played at Gonzaga High School, which is the big Catholic school in Washington, D.C., like the powerhouse football program for the city of Washington, D.C., So Washington getting Caleb Williams would do all sorts of things. We saw this years back, with Chase Young, where they got another DMV guy early in the draft. They love doing this, and he's the easily the most well-known DMV product ever in the NFL draft at this point, Caleb Williams. So Washington getting him would do all sorts of things for jersey sales. I mean, it makes sense, Matt, for them to sell out and just pay and go get Caleb Williams at the top.
I think that's likely. And remember Trayvon Walker also? No one was talking about Trayvon Walker in the top 5 at this time a couple of years ago. Yeah. And then he's the number 1 pick, right? So there's going to be a riser also that crashes the top 5. That is also, remember that is going to happen.
Podfather, keep in mind that Washington has a little extra ammo, too. They have 2.10 as an extra pick in the second round that they traded for Sweat.
Yeah, that's a good point. Really good point, Alan. So they're going to have to give up a lot because the Bears, apparently there's rumors out there that the 101 now is worth more. They're going to be able to get more than they got for Bryce Young. So who knows how much?
But that's it. If they only have to move down 1 spot, then that changes the equation slightly.
That's a good point. Very good point.
That's a great point. This was a great show, guys. For Dynasty, I just sent my big subscriber email to all our subscribers, and we are committing to doing a Dynasty League sync. It's been the number 1 request for subscribers is to be able to load teams into Player Profiler and see all your lifetime values of all your teams and where they stack up. And there's a lot of other benefits to having your teams loaded into Player Profiler. That is something that we are committed to this year. I just wanted to come out there and say that. So I really enjoy being able to tout all the things and all our accomplishments to subscribers. So I had that email to send the email to investors, talking about, our big Project X that we're working on as we are going to become a fantasy gaming company. So that's exciting. And then we've also been receiving a lot of emails, an incredible number of emails from those that want to be writers, want to join our news desk with Bradley Stalder. You've seen more player news coming out on Player Profiler more and more every day. So that's exciting. But also show producers, to be someone behind the scenes helping to produce this show and other shows, active in the chat and all those things. So email me, podfather@rotounderworld.com if you're interested in anything that we're doing, and I will get right back to you. So this is a very exciting time. There's a lot happening, percolating underneath the surface at Player Profiler, but also in your face. And so it's going to be an exciting year, fellas. Get ready. Strap in. Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you
especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.